Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk. We are back from vacation, and there is plenty that we are going to try to squeeze on in, like trying to squeeze things into your suitcase as you come back from vacation. All of those trinkets, all of those novelties, all of those souvenirs. You come back heavier than you did when you first arrived. And the same thing here. We've got to try to squeeze everything in to 30 minutes. And let's be honest, there will be runoff to Thursday. But hey, great to be back. Wonderful, refreshing opportunity for me and the family to take about 10 days of a vacation down to Walt Disney World and down to Florida. Outstanding. And quickly as an aside, two things as an aside. One, during the trip, I didn't do much of any work. Didn't mean I didn't check things out online or do things that I find a lot of fun. But two things. One, if you are going to, I should put this out on LinkedIn, which I'll get to in a moment, I highly recommend you take vacation. Take vacation. And I mean a real vacation. Everybody should once in a while take a long weekend. If you like to go to the cabin, do that. Go over to the cities. Go to Door County. Go to Duluth. I know people love Duluth for whatever reason. You can take those mini trips. But at least once every 4 years, you should go on a real vacation. And what's a real vacation? For everybody, it's different. But this is where, hey, I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to go to Arizona. Hey, I want to go to New York City. I want to go to Washington, D.C. Or, hey, we usually go up to the cabin around Hayward. I've got connections to go to some place in the Upper Peninsula. Whatever it may be, a true vacation. It'll make you just a better person. As a business person, it'll make you better in business. Whether you own the business or you're somebody below management, it'll make you a lot better, and it makes life worth living. If you've got the financial means to do it every year, by all means do it. But otherwise, at least every 4 years. And if you're worried, oh, I don't have the money, or I'm addicted to work, I have to work, all that, those are all things you can figure out. Everybody, no matter your income, can go on vacation. You might not be able to do exactly what you want to do in some cases. Hey, I'd like to. There are things at Disney World that are out of our price range, but we still go. And boy, I'd like to go every single year, but we can't because of the price. But I highly recommend you do something, whatever it may be, once every 4 years. And if you don't think your business can survive without you, you are strongly... Here's the thing. Don't be worried, oh, if I go and they operate without me, well, then they don't need me. No, that's not true either. And if you own the business or you run the business and you think you have to constantly be micromanaging, you're not running it well enough as it is. If you're a good leader, you're able to step away and let other people do it. So take vacation. The other thing, and we're not going to talk about it here, but if you follow my LinkedIn page, I will die on this hill of, and there's a lot of nuance to it, and there's a lot of other stuff I can dive into because it's not across the board. My feeling here, there are certain industries where absolutely I'll pivot my thought to. But when it comes to sports interns with sports organizations, there should be nothing wrong with them being unpaid. If an organization can pay interns, great. But otherwise, internships in sports, which is the candy store of life, one of the things you have to understand if you're going to work in one of the candy store industries is you maybe have to, you're not going to get paid as well. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So that got me all flustered during the trip and whatnot. I threw something out there, some things that happened and whatnot. So I wanted to go on my LinkedIn page and back me up, folks. College interns, there's nothing wrong with them being unpaid. There's nothing wrong. It should not be a mandate. And that's a whole other argument for another day because there's a lot of nuance to it. That is not an across-the-board feeling, but we'll get to that another time. We've got to get to the city of Eau Claire's financial mess that is coming to roost. And we will get to that in a moment. Of course, historic snowfall over the weekend. I think everybody is just now really popping their heads above the snowbanks. Backs and arms are exhausted from shoveling and snow blowing over the weekend. The Montesano snowblower broke. The handle broke on it Monday morning as I was trying to clean up the remnants of the snowplow in front of our driveway. Now, we are on the right-hand side of the road near an intersection of in our neighborhood, so we get all the snow from the street ends up plowed into our driveway. And that was a very heavy, dense snow. Killed the snowblower. Good news is it's the end of the snow season. Snowblower had been around for 5 years. Wanted to upgrade anyway. And shoveling now with 2 teenagers becomes a lot easier because you can put them to work. But an historic snowfall, had over a foot. Hey, it wasn't the 2 feet that Wausau and Green Bay got, and it doesn't break any records, but still over a foot in Eau Claire. That's going to be one of the top snowfalls this area has gotten. Even where I'm from, in upstate New York, you get a foot plus, that's major. Forecasters got it right. They got it right. They said anywhere from a foot to 2 feet. They were right. And I think it was pretty cool to see everybody kind of hunker down for a couple of days. You saw Pablo Center cancel their performances over the weekend. I know a number of restaurants and businesses shut down early. Others operated at minimal staffing. Society has changed for the better in the last, I say, 15 or so years. You get these storms, and yes, sometimes it's overreaction, but people go, it's not worth it. Even if the storm misses, it's not worth it. Let's just plan on staying home in the snow. It's an excuse to stay home, make some mac and cheese, watch something on TV, and that's it. The Chippewa Steel game on Saturday night was moved to the afternoon to avoid the storm. There was a time when I first got started in sports, you would have played no matter what. We're playing the game when it was planned, as almost done out of stubborn ego. We would do it. Nowadays, if you're smart, you move it. And I know there's people out there saying, oh, I would have driven, I would have done this, I could have done this. There's people saying, hey, I went to a restaurant Sunday night. Good for you. But it's not worth it, is it? It's not really worth it. So I have nothing wrong with things being moved and postponed and changed. Kind of stinks for people that had tickets to those performances at the Pablo Center. But at the same time, how much fun would it have been for you to have gone, let's say Saturday night, there was something going on Saturday night, and then they had a band on Saturday, and they had a comedian on Sunday. In particular, Saturday, if you'd gone Saturday, you'd be spending most of the show wondering, am I going to be able to get back home? And if you lived outside of Eau Claire, you would have been worried. Sunday night, who knows if you would have even gotten there. Kudos to the City of Eau Claire crews, and hopefully many of you experience the same thing. Our street got a pass by a snowblower mid-afternoon on Sunday. The snow plowing in our area has gotten so much better in the last few years. I know we like to complain about a lot of things, but a big tip of the cap to the snow crew in Eau Claire. We had a pass on Sunday that if we had to get out, we could have. We're not on any major street. We're just a residential street. We got a pass. It's midday on Sunday, and then they came by and cleaned it up even more Monday morning. Great job. And I heard the same thing from a lot of other people. Great job by the snow crews. They were out and about. They were prepared for this storm. So in all reality, I know schools yesterday were virtual, but people could get to work on Monday. Now, most people still stayed home on Monday. All of our podcasts got postponed. People had already said we're not driving, what have you. But if you really had to get out on Monday, you absolutely could have. So, again, we had that historic snowfall over the weekend. Everything's white. Going to get another dusting on Tuesday night into Wednesday, and then bring on spring. Then I'm ready for spring. It was fun to see the snow come down. It was fun. Big storm and everything. It was a foot of snow, and it's great snowman and snowball snow, too. Say a prayer, by the way, for our snow blower once again. Emily Anderson, while we were out on vacation, Emily Anderson, Eau Claire City Councilor, been on the council for a number of years, announced she is stepping down in District 2. Career path. Her career path, she works for a nonprofit, making it so she is not able to dedicate time to the city council anymore. So as she focuses more on her career with this particular nonprofit, she is stepping down in District 2. It is too late for there to be a official vote by the public with the election coming up, the local elections coming up in just a couple of weeks. So the city councilors, the current councilors, will fill the seat, and then next spring there will be an election. So what you'll have is people can write in and say, I want the job. And then of the people that write in and say they want the job, the city council will pick from those people. We have had this happen before. We have had this happen fairly regularly in the last number of years. So again, Emily Anderson stepping down, but there will not be a vote by the public for her seat until next year. It makes sense what they're doing, because logistically it's a nightmare to be able to try to squeeze it all together. You wouldn't be able to do an actual vote, get candidates together, get the signatures and all that in just a couple of weeks. And you're also not going to have a special election at another time. It's, again, not feasible. So it makes sense not to scramble for an election, but it is frustrating, too, that the council will select. And I know the conspiracy theorists out there will say, she did this knowingly. She knew she wasn't going to be on the council, and she waited until it was a point where she could step aside, and it would be the council, her fellow councilors, who would pick her replacement. I'm not going to go down that route. All right. Could that play a factor in certain people's heads? Absolutely. But for Emily Anderson to have actually pulled that off, she would have had to have held on to this for 2-3 months. If she had announced in, say, late January or even early February that she was leaving, I would even say, then maybe. But I have a hard time thinking she held on to this for multiple weeks. It wasn't like she held on to this for an extra day to make it so there couldn't be an actual election. And to that end, too, a lot of times it still doesn't mean you have ultimate control unless they already have somebody in mind to take over, and I don't think that's the case. So Emily Anderson stepping down. Don't go down the path of thinking it's a conspiracy and they're all in cahoots and she made this announcement and of course the counselors will pick and not you and I and all that. Where you could get a little irritated, and I do think it is true, Remember, these are not full-time jobs, these political positions, but at the same time, you did make a commitment. And I understand things come up. People leave paying jobs all the time because something came up. But you can needle Emily a little bit as to, you made a commitment to us. We made a commitment to you by people voting you in, and you're kind of leaving us in the lurch. All right? There's not necessarily a pound of flesh to be had, but you can kind of needle a little bit there. Speaking of the Eau Claire City Council, all eyes on that city council presidency race. And boy, that's going to be a fun one to follow because unlike in some recent years, there actually is a race for the city council presidency. And it feels like, especially if it's one candidate, the presidency is going to get a little bit more of its backbone once again. Because since the days of Kerry Kincaid about 10 years ago, the city council presidency has felt more like the presidency of somebody running the local Lions Club, where they are a facilitator of the meetings, and that is it. And it actually came at a good time. Kerry Kincaid was very much an activist at the presidency role, good, bad, and all in between. And since then, the people in the presidency role have kind of simmered it down. They've been much more of a facilitator of the meetings, including Emily Berge, who is stepping down. A little surprising Berge was as passive as she was, and it could come back to hurt her in the upcoming congressional primary because she doesn't have a lot of meat to be able to point at and say, I did X, Y, and Z, and I showed this leadership, but that's another thing for another day. The presidency, especially with a lot of people upset at the city manager position in Eau Claire, the presidency has an opening to be the grab the keys position that this area could use. Who wants to be the leader? And you've got Scott Rogers versus Jeremy Greger. Now, I'm not officially endorsing Scott Rogers. It's not fair to all of the partners on Eau Claire Hometown Media. It's absolutely not. And Jeremy's a good guy and all that. But you have two dichotomies here in which two completely opposite candidates. And I do feel Scott right now is the better choice, considering that at this moment, it is a fiscal and budgetary issue for the city. Jeremy, I think, would be better if specifically social issues were more at center and if you wanted to kind of keep the position being the facilitator of the meetings. I think now you need, in essence, a de facto mayor. You need a de facto elected leader. And I think Scott Rogers is in that position to be that. The Eau Claire Chamber of Commerce, and remember, Scott Rogers, the chamber has not endorsed, and they're not going to endorse either candidate, even with Rogers' position. The chamber is holding a forum next week, and that's going to be live streamed. I look forward to watching that either live or on demand. Now, whoever does win that presidency in a couple of weeks, they will be inheriting a complete fiscal mess for the city of Eau Claire that had been boiling for years. And you'd hear people around talk about, there's a cliff coming. There's a fiscal cliff coming. Well, we've hit the cliff and we're already falling off the cliff. The city of Eau Claire has a significant budget shortfall that was seen coming for a few years. And you'd hear people talk about it, and you just kept thinking, all right, we've elected people to figure this out. They have not figured it out. Now, on one hand, at this point, it's lazy to say the city simply needs to cut costs. It's lazy thinking to say, well, the city has mismanaged everything. The city doesn't know what it's doing. Because it's clear, especially when breaking down school budgets, which are separate, the state isn't living up to its end. We talk about it a lot with public schools. The same thing occurs with municipalities, that the state has not kept up, and we talk about all the time. Yes, it's all our money, pointing at me. It's all our money. But a lot more of the stress is getting put on municipalities who don't quite have the same buying power and what have you. Stuff is not being taken care of by the state. State's not expanding its resources, all of that. At the same time, because again, this debate is not all in one direction when we're talking about the city of Eau Claire fiscal mess. Former Director of Finance Jay Winzans, I believe it's Winzans. Jay Winzans went up and in on his former colleagues in a recent Leader Telegram editorial. Jay spent about a decade in Eau Claire. Before that, he was down in Janesville. I think he left in 2022. Might have been late 2021, but he left in 2022. So it's been a few years. Stephanie Hirsch was, I think, very, very new at the time. You had COVID budgeting was very much in effect, with lots of grants circling around. It's also when many municipalities made decisions they're now ruling. But that's when Jay Winzans left. But he has kept his finger on the pulse, if you will. For what it's worth, Kinsey Winters has been the finance director for a few years now. And while we won't focus on Kinsey, no one's head should be safe from the pike at the moment. But Jay, as I just said, hey, we got to start pointing the finger a bit at the state. We have to point a finger at the state, and I do believe city officials, when they point the finger at the state, do have validity to what they're arguing. Jay Winzans, though, puts it in terms of the math ain't mathing, in that the city has been receiving more money from the state over the last number of years. If you look at it, the state has been giving more money, but that the city of Eau Claire has simply outspent it and didn't look ahead. Now you can start getting into arguments of, well, yes, they have given more money, but it has not outpaced rising costs everywhere else and percentage-wise and all this. Where Jay is, I think, very much without argument making a good point, though, is that the city of Eau Claire did what a number of municipalities did. They used grant monies and one-time COVID payments to fund ongoing projects that now you have to cover yourself. Or you kick the can down the road. Oh, we use this money to pay for this, but you had no plan for there to be steady revenue to backfill. It's like winning a car on The Price is Right, but not understanding you'll need to care for its maintenance. The state government not raising funds for municipalities, it's fool's gold. They look good, our state governors, our state leaders, but we struggle locally with less buying power. At the same time, we are paying for the fact that city leaders just a few years ago did not see the forest through the trees. And this falls squarely, all excuses aside, squarely on Stephanie Hirsch, the city manager, who was brought in because, well, she's got experience with finances. And it falls on the feet of our city councilors who, one, picked Stephanie Hirsch, and two, did not hold her feet to the fire with this, and three, it all happened on many of their watches. She's been the captain of a ship that no matter what excuse you make, it has run aground. And this is why we now have downtown paid parking coming, and the raise in the wheel tax, and many other things that now the city is scrambling. And as we'll talk about in a moment, they're getting desperate. And when we say they're getting desperate, that means you and I, if you live in the city of Eau Claire, are getting desperate. Because we have to remember that. You and me, if you live in Eau Claire, and this is the same in any other municipality, when you say, We have the same thing with the federal government, too. Don't say, oh, they're doing this and they're doing. That means we are, too. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. You can disagree with decisions, absolutely. But remember, it's all a we. In the end, right now, it's pretty clear. Everybody's got to look at this now. There's shortfalls. We need to raise revenue. The city of Eau Claire needs to raise revenue. It's not as much about cutting costs or firing a few staff employees at this point. I know it's the lazy take to go, well, everything's bloated there, just fire a few people. That's not going to fix it. Firing employees, yes, makes you feel better. But dropping $75,000 from the budget with this issue, it's like thinking removing one Asian carp from the Mississippi fixes the invasive species problems. No, this is much more. So there's a lot of things the city of Eau Claire's looking at, and a few that have come out that are very public now because the organizations being tapped are speaking about it. One, you look at when Stephanie Hirsch first came to town, and you'd hear from leaders that had met with her, she, to her credit, 4 or 5 years ago said, hey, the city's got to get out of the entertainment game, as she put it. But again, this is part of her problem too. She may have seen the idea, but she didn't have the leadership to actually execute it. Let's remember that. If you might have the greatest ideas, but if you can't execute it, you're not doing the job. And it's not our responsibility to give you a job. Either you do it or you don't. But the city of Eau Claire, notably, is looking to save money at the Eau Claire Soccer Park, Fairfax Pool, and the Hobbs Ice Center. And they're looking for, it gets a little fugazi now, they're looking to limit their expenses there. For one, ASO Soccer, that's the Youth Soccer League in Eau Claire, they're looking to take over the soccer fields. All right? Various entities have engaged in the possibility of helping to run the Hobbs Ice Center. There is, though, some questions with all of this. Hobbs in particular, the Hobbs Ice Arena, they brought together, apparently about 10 days ago, a bunch of users of the Hobbs Ice Center. The reality is only Eau Claire Youth Hockey is in a position to be able to perhaps run it because the university ain't doing it. We've talked about it numerous times on this show. Previous people at the university would have done it, but the chancellor's gone. The AD, the old AD who would have done it, it's gone, and the person that ran the foundation that wanted to do it are gone. So the 3 people that were going to do it, they're gone. YMCA's not interested. The figure skating's too small. The UW Eau Claire hockey boosters are too small. But you've got Eau Claire Youth Hockey. They're the only ones that maybe could do it. And what the city of Eau Claire's done is, one, apparently waited as long as they could to get these groups together because these groups have to decide by the end of the month, so less than 3 weeks from the meeting, if they want to do it. But if, say, the Eau Claire Youth Hockey says, yes, we will run Hobbs, the city of Eau Claire could then go and get a one-time grant to help the youth hockey run it and all that. Here's the kicker out of all of this. What I want to bring down here as we start to come to an end of this show. They're flailing for ideas because what they're doing at the city hall right now is they're trying to unload these various things in the area, whether it's the pool, whether it's the soccer fields, whether it is Hobbs. But their answer is grants again. And that would be horrible. I'll use the Hobbs Ice Arena, for example. Eau Claire Youth Hockey is 50-50 whether they'll do it or not. And if I was them, you kind of do it. We could have an hour-long discussion because there's other options they might have, options that they weren't all that interested in 2 months ago because those options in Halley are a little bit sketchy, but maybe all that. But if you're the Eau Claire Youth Hockey Association, a one-time grant, again, is just kicking the can down the road. You're delaying issues. And that's not going to fix any of this. We got to get out of the grant game. If you're the city of Eau Claire, you've got all this fiscal issues that you have. You need regular, sustainable revenue, not grants. Grants might bide you time, but what ends up happening is it buys people time, but then they don't necessarily have the plan right after. The reality of it is, it's procrastination. There's two different ways of procrastination. If you say, hey, I'm not going to finish this tonight, but I've got a plan to do it right away in the morning, and here's how I'm going to do it, that's fine. On the other hand, if you go, hey, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, let's just wait a day and we'll circle back to it, that doesn't fix the problem. That truly is procrastination. So whether it's a soccer field, whether it's Hobbs, whether it's some of these other things, they got to get out of the grant game. They got to get out of the grant game. This probably means you've got to try to find actual groups that are going to buy these facilities. And there's a whole other argument there, because is that better in the long run for us as citizens? It's not. I've told people this too. When it comes to Hobbs, I think they're selling those dasher boards for like $1,000, the signage in there. Why not have somebody on staff? They're selling them for, you could sell those for $5,000. You could be doing $300,000 in ad revenue there. There's so many different things you could do. You could actually kind of hold the university at gunpoint a bit and raise the rates for the university's hockey teams to play there. There's a lot of little things that you can do there, but you got to raise revenue. Same thing at the soccer fields, all that. But this is going to be a discussion for you and I for the next little bit here. And I think it plays a big role in the city council presidency race. All right. Back with you on Thursday, another edition of Talk of the Town. Then likely will be a recorded edition, but it might be live as well on Thursday. Look forward to getting back to what we talk about there. Probably more on the fiscal crutch for the city of Eau Claire. In fact, I'm going to make that note right here. Some other things to get to as well. On behalf of everyone who made this podcast possible, I'm Scott Montesano, saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time, so long, everybody.